when we're preparing homilies, we've been asked to restrict our presentations to about 400 words. And as I was preparing this yesterday, I had a whole section on Solomon. I wanted to say something, but it was just getting to be too much, and I deleted it. But this morning I was over at Mass at St. Mary's in Mansfield, and you listen to that. You listen to that story about Solomon. 2 days ago, we were extolling him. Here comes this queen from the south, just taken aback by this incredible man, all his human accomplishments, his possessed wisdom, his adulation from this crowd. And today, he unravels. And it wasn't just a question. I said, is it dementia? Or is it senility? No, if that was so, God would not have been so upset and angry. Something beautiful was no longer beautiful. It's the human condition, unfortunately. And there was one line that Jesus also said, or I should say God in that gospel, Solomon, if that's what you want, that's what you want. But anyway, so I deleted it, and I came up with the following. It was a spontaneous conversation I had with someone here. I had just returned from a long absence when I engaged a gentleman in conversation. Oh, I've already told you half the story, who he is. I talked about my trip, my experience with the vibrant faith that I encountered, and he in turn shared a little bit about his own faith journey. He's retired, widowed. He found more and more solace in rosary prayer and Mass, sometimes twice a day. I think I heard him say that his grandkids would say, gee, Pops, twice a day. But he said something like this, I just want God to know my name. I want God to know my name. And I thought, gee, what a beautiful thought. And yet, he knows all our names, and they're written in the palm of his hands. And the psalmist today, in that Psalm 106, voiced a similar desire. Remember me, God, as you favor your people. The woman in the gospel passage today certainly wanted Jesus to know who she was. And it was interesting, that gospel, on several levels. We who profess belief in Jesus have been taught that he is like us in all things but sin. But he also took on flesh in the womb of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And this humanity of Jesus, for me today, was in full view. It strikes me from that gospel that he was exhausted. He purposely tried to avoid engagement with anyone at that moment, quietly going into a house, hopefully going unnoticed. He wanted to be alone. And in some ways, he was acting like some of us at times when we just want to be left alone. Let me just say like me. I just want to be left alone. I don't want to perform. I don't want to engage. I don't want to hear that telephone, because if I hear that telephone, then I have to answer you. But this woman was not going to let him off the hook. She was not going to let him alone. She had a need. She was different from the people that he was dealing with at the time or engaging with at the time. It said that she was a Syrophoenician. Well, she wasn't. She was like a pagan. But she wasn't deterred. And it was a strange interaction when you heard the language that going back and forth. But that's not the important thing to get stopped by. She was reminding Jesus of something he would have heard whenever he went to the synagogue service. Remember me as you favor your people. St. Mark, in telling us this story today, wanted us and all who would hear it, particularly that fledgling little Christian community, he wanted them to know about what inclusivity means. The woman wanted Jesus' attention to do for her what she heard he had done for others. She not only caught his attention, she has been getting the attention of every single person for the past 2,000 years who hears this passage. It was a plea to be heard, to be recognized. It's a plea that manifests itself still from across the world, in our homes, our workplace, our church. Recognize me. Yes, my color may be different, but recognize me. Recognize me if I'm not dressed as well as you. Recognize me. In Paul's letter to the Galatians, we read that before faith was revealed, we were locked in by the constraints of law. But with the coming of Christ among us, those constraints were released. The lady in the gospel today was in the presence of faith, the person of Jesus. She had faith in him. She would become a daughter of God because of her faith in Jesus.